Hello, BookTube. Today we're going to, look at the first bookshelf, the fifth shelf, part two. That's the last shelf on that bookshelf. I moved to another room because I need a table to help me with these volumes. They're a little large. There's 20 of them. I'll probably do it in sections of 10, just so the videos aren't too long. And every one of them is part of Newsweek's Great Museums of the World. And I thought I'd read a little bit about the series before we moved on to the individual volumes. This volume is one of an extraordinary series of art books presented as on a guided tour the Great Museums of the World. Each presents the museum's most important and memorable works of art, all especially photographed for this series and reproduced in superb color. Every volume in the series contains an introduction by the museum's director and a lucid text commenting on the historic and artistic significance of the work and their creators. The text has been written by a distinguished staff of art historians and edited for art lovers, connoisseurs, and students by Thomas B. Hess and Henry A. Lafarge. So I have 20 of these volumes. Excuse me. And we're going to start with the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. Again, this is Newsweek's Great Museums of the World. The introduction by the director in this case is Barbara Filippaki. I hope I'm doing her name right. Director, National Archaeological Museum of Athens. Pretty good length introduction. Then you have commentary texts and plates. So they start with some of the earliest. That's a Neolithic Hellenic culture, mother and child. Let's see. Like I said, these books are a little bit to handle. They're great to sit around and to explore. You know, if you're not into, you just want to sit there and enjoy some images. And the text is pretty informative, but they're not big long dissertations. They tend to be short, describing, the artifact and put it in its context. So, get a little bit of a glare there. That may be a problem today. The next volume is the Museums of the Andes in the Great Museums of the World. Still getting a little bit of glare there. So the introduction is by Junius B. Bird, Curator Emeritus, American Museum of Natural History of New York. Move right along. I'll give you a copyright date. We're going to do the Prado in Madrid. The first printing was 68, and the fourth printing I have is 78, and these all would have been similar time frame. The Prado Museum by F. J. Sanchez Canton, director. So in this case, they start off with Italy. So collected works from Italy. So this is Andrea del Sarto, Lucrezia del Fide. This one right here. Give you just an example. one of the artists. Oh, this is magnificent. So this is Jacopo Tintoretto, Battle of the Corsairs, The Abduction of Helen, circa 1580. Here's a Velasquez, the Fable of Ariadne, 1644 to 1648. This one right here. And then Peter Paul Rubens, The Garden of Love. So obviously we've moved out of Italy. So moving right along, Museum of Art, Sao Paulo. Okay, Sao Paulo Museum achieved instant international recognition in 1953 when it sent 100 masterpieces of old and modern art on a tour of major European museums. The fledgling museum was then less than 10 years old, but the quality of the whole astonished the art world. And the museum is recognized today as the largest and most important museum of Western art in Latin America. So there's the museum in Sao Paulo. It has a introduction by Pietro Maria Bardi, who's the director. Again, we start with some Italian art. St. Jerome here by Mantegna. Right here with the detail. Let's get into something different here. We've got Jean-Marc Nadier. Right here, The Princesses of France. So right in here. Renoir, Bather and a Griffin Dog. Right there. Gauguin, Poor Fisherman. Let's see. Lagar, Compote Dish of Pears. Right here. So move right along. Vatican Museums of Rome. Here are the choicest of the papal treasures that for centuries have drawn the art lover to Rome. So let's see. Oh, this is a great image right there. Get it without any glare there. So our introduction in this case is Dioclesio Redig de Campos, Inspector of the Vatican Museums. And we also have another Paolo della Torre del Tempio di Sanguineto, I hope I pronounced that at least close, who is the Director General. So here's an Etruscan terracotta in the shape of Pegasus. Here's a Roman copy after a bronze of the Bathing Venus. Augustus from Prima Porta. That would have been shortly after 20 BC. This one is a pretty common image to see. Okay, let's see, a late antique miniature painter, building of Carthage, 4th to 5th century AD. Let's see, here is the interior of the Sistine Chapel. We all recognize that ceiling. Michelangelo's a detail of that part of that ceiling. Page after page of that. I mean, they're sort of on my bucket list to get there someday. I've been to Italy, but I've never been into the Vatican. It's now moved to the National Gallery of London. England's National Gallery is renowned for what is probably the most balanced collection of paintings in the world. All right, so there it is. So, introductions by Michael Levy, the keeper. Again, this museum book starts off with Italy, which I guess makes sense. Bellini's The Blood of the Redeemer, right here. Botticelli, Mystic Nativity. Move on to something different here. Veronese, St. Helen, Vision of the Cross. Guardi, Venice, right here. These are not like the old pictures of Venice that my relatives had hanging on their walls. There was all the rage for Venice images when I was a young man. Some even less good than others. Pieter de Hooch, an interior with a woman drinking with 2 men and a maidservant. Right. And then, let's see, going to Germany. Cranach. Yeah, going to France, see Watteau. Ingers. Now we'll move on to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Here is the grandeur of Imperial Egypt as seen in its greatest monuments, the cream of the fabled archaeological finds of the past century, housed in the Egyptian Museum of Cairo. So, here's an interior shot. Mohammed Hassan Abdul Rahman, director, did the introduction. Getting some very early. This is one you'll see quite often. This is the Palette of Narmer. Painting of geese from Medun, beginning of Dynasty 4, 27th century BC. Amazing. Soldiers, the 9th and 10th dynasties, 22nd century BC, painted wood. King Tut, Tutankhamun, hurling a harpoon. Post-Amarna period, the 18th dynasty, 1361 to 1352 BC. Some more from Tutankhamun. Famous image there. So we'll move right along to the related volume, Museums of Egypt. So, Robert Best Bianchi, Associate Curator of Egyptian and Classical Art at the Brooklyn Museum. So, the Blue Mosque, 1346 AD, Cairo. Ayyubid Caliphate. The Solar Boat, Giza, end of the reign of Cheops, dynasty is 2250 to 2520 BC. And those of you who get all into the controversy between BC and AD, or Common Era versions, before the Common Era, BCE and all that, I'm just using what the book uses. I don't have that big an opinion on it. We'll move on to one of the museums I've actually been to, the Hermitage. Of course, it's a pretty big place. The Empress Catherine II of Russia, one of the most famous art collectors of all time, was largely responsible for starting the Hermitage. Although she once remarked that only mice and I admire my treasures, the Hermitage has become a repository of world art matched only by the Louvre and the British Museum. All right, there it is. Introduction. Vitaly, Suslov, sub-director of the Hermitage. And so they start with some Greek, Roman, and Near Eastern art. Let's see, Leonardo da Vinci. Madonna with a flower. Michelangelo, Crouching Boy. Benvenuto Cellini, Perseus. Veronese, Adoration of the Magi. Let's move on to some other stuff here. Jacques-Louis David, Sappho and Phaedon. Renoir, Portrait of the Actress Jean Samory. Caspar David Friedrich, On a Sailboat. And then the last one for this section, Painting Gallery, Dresden. The Dresden Gallery, already famous in the 18th century, quickly became one of the favorite places for the Grand Tour traveler to visit after it opened as a public museum in 1855. Miraculously preserved from the bombings of Dresden in the Second World War, its fabulous holdings are to a large extent the proud heritage of several generations of the court of Saxony, one of the richest and most aristocratic in Europe. There it is right there. So the introduction is by Manfred Bachmann, General Director, Dresden Paintings Gallery. Once again, we start with Italian paintings. So here we have Sarto's Sacrifice of Isaac, and on the other side you'll see Saint Sebastian from the Veronese artists of the second half of the 15th century. So Sebastian's the one with the arrows in it. So here's an Annunciation, this one by Del Cosa. And then De Roberti, The Agony of the Garden of the Betrayal of Christ and Christ on the Road to Calvary. These are oil on panel. See if I can get a good look at these. Ecstasy of St. Francis, Barbieri, Guarcino, I guess that's how you say it. Another St. Sebastian, this one by Messina, the arrows. Alright, this is Strozzi, Woman with a Bass Viol. Some Flemish and Belgian painting. Pieter Paul Rubens, The Boar Hunt. Let's see. Dutch painting here, Vermeer, The Procuress. French, Claude Lorraine, Landscape with the Flight into Egypt. That can be a little hard to see on the camera, I think, but maybe not. Degas, Two Ballet Dancers in Conversation. Alright, let's see here. Velasquez, Portrait of Don Juan Mateos, circa 1632. Self-portrait of Anton Raphael Mengs, 1744. And this is Joseph Heinz the Elder, The Rape of Proserpina. So this is the first 10. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, BookTube.